Part 4. Systemic Corruption and Public Naivety Enabling Chinese Influence. Nebraska's legislature, heavily swayed by the influential agribusiness lobbies such as the Nebraska Farm Bureau, has historically turned a blind eye to the creeping encroachment of Chinese land ownership, with significant legislative measures like LB 1301 only emerging under the intense pressure of federal scrutiny. This belated action highlights a systemic failure to prioritize national security over economic interests, a lapse that has allowed foreign influence to take root. Elected officials, including Governor Jim Pillen and Senator Pete Ricketts, hold substantial investments in agriculture and finance, with many of these portfolios overlapping with Chinese-linked firms, creating glaring conflicts of interest that undermine their duty to protect the state. Berkshire Hathaway, a dominant economic force in Nebraska with significant stakes in companies like Corteva, amplifies this issue by exerting considerable influence over the state's economy and political landscape, further entrenching ties to markets influenced by Chinese capital. The state's populace, deeply trusting and heavily dependent on agriculture for its livelihood, readily accepts the assurances of its leaders, remaining largely unaware of the financial ties that bind Pillen and Ricketts to Chinese investment schemes. This naivety is perpetuated by widespread misinformation, such as exaggerated reports of foreign ownership that distort public perception, while a 2023 legislative study downplaying the impact of land value changes serves to mask the true extent of the threat posed by foreign control. Chinese firms like Syngenta, owned by ChemChina and Smithfield Foods, under WH Group, exploit this environment through their direct ownership of 1,200 acres and extensive indirect influence over an estimated 5,000 to 10,000 acres via investments, leases, and contracts. This dual approach allows them to dominate key agricultural sectors and strategic locations, including near Offutt Air Force Base, heightening espionage and food security risks. The failure of Pillen, Ricketts, and the legislature to curb these schemes reflects a deep-seated systemic corruption that prioritizes profit and personal gain over the security of Nebraska's farmland and the nation. This corruption is sustained by a combination of elite financial interests and public ignorance, creating a fertile ground for Chinese influence to flourish unchecked. A federal investigation becomes essential to expose these illicit ties, educate the public on the realities of foreign ownership, and dismantle the structural mechanisms that enable Chinese domination of Nebraska's agricultural heartland, ensuring the protection of America's food supply and the restoration of state sovereignty.